22 years have passed since TriStar's American version of Godzilla roared into theaters. It's definitely been a trip. Without this movie, the Godzilla franchise wouldn't be where it is today, for better or for worse. Now obviously, if you paid attention to what's been going on throughout the years, this movie was a complete failure. Maybe not in terms of box office, but definitely in terms of the audience. No one was pleased, except for maybe the children watching it. I was one of those children. I was born in 2004, so I wasn't able to experience it when it came out, but I did own it on DVD and still do. This movie managed to introduce an entire generation to Godzilla, but in the worst way possible. Let me give you a taste of what being a Godzilla fan was like in the 2000s and early 2010s before Gareth Edwards' Godzilla came out in 2014. I remember it so vividly. It seemed I grew up in a time ripe for experiencing so much Godzilla content. A ton of the original Japanese movies have been released in America on DVD, including the entirety of the Showa series, 5 of the Heisei movies, and the entirety of the Millennium series, I believe. And I happened to live barely a minute away from an FYE. FYE was a video store. They sold what you call the good shit. Movies everywhere. Movies no one cared about, cheesy movies, awesome movies, Oscar-winning movies. FYE had it all. And they even had an entire small portion of a shelf filled with Godzilla movies. Pretty much all the ones that were released in America up to that point were being carried there. So as a child, I couldn't resist staring at the wide selection of films starring my hero. My dad was who exposed me to the character, as I've heard countless times. He showed me so long ago that I genuinely can't remember. I was like 2 or 3 and my dad, according to him and my brother, showed me Godzilla King of the Monsters from 1956. And from that day forward, I was changed forever. My dad kept getting more Godzilla movies for me to watch, and sooner or later I had a little Godzilla movie collection. And he got them at FYE. However, one of those movies among the great tokusatsu DVDs in the collection was Godzilla. It was just called Godzilla. And that one always piqued my interest for some reason. I watched it just as much as the other Japanese movies and treated it with the same respect. It wasn't too different or anything to me. It was just another movie about Godzilla that I loved to watch. However, being a young child in the 2000s, wanting to explore and find more people like me, I took to the internet to watch Godzilla content and, see whatever I could on early YouTube. It was so fun. I learned so damn much about the movies I loved. I watched tour reviews of Godzilla figures I couldn't afford. I remember all those Bandai figures and statues from the 50th anniversary box set being talked about as if they were as common as a McDonald's. It was a different time. A more innocent, passionate time to be a Godzilla fan, especially since the last movie was years behind us, premiering in 2004. But anyway, back on track. I started looking at reviews for those movies, and that was my first time I was exposed to critiquing. They rated every single Godzilla movie, and they said a lot of things I found really, really odd. You mean to tell me that Godzilla's Revenge wasn't amazing? That Godzilla vs. Gigan wasn't a masterpiece? And Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla was shit? Huh. Yeah, I kept being told that some movies were better than others, but, that's fine, because quite frankly, they had a lot of good points. A large chunk of the Godzilla movies weren't necessarily the best cinema. I still loved them, of course, but knew a lot weren't very good films. But one fateful day, I saw a review for that Godzilla movie with CGI instead of suits. Yeah, that weird one. It was hard to explain, but back then Godzilla 98 had just as much merit to me as the other movies. They kept saying how it was dog shit and completely disrespectful to the character, that it was not Godzilla. I used to think to myself, how is that possible? They're calling him Zilla? So that's the name of the lookalike from Final Wars? Okay, I guess he's Zilla now. Yeah, I essentially went into a mob mentality. I hated the movies that they said to hate, except Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, but I still just followed whatever Godzilla channels had to say. I was essentially told that the good old United States, my country, by the way, fucked up Godzilla so hard that Japan had to clean up the mess with Godzilla 2000 a year later. Were they right? Were they wrong? I saw their points about the movie and understood why so many people hated it, and how it was disrespectful to the Godzilla that, everyone knew. I stuck with that same opinion for years, but until recently, after watching it so many fucking times, I've come to the conclusion that, well, they're right. Yeah, the Godzilla in that movie really isn't Godzilla. It resembles Godzilla, it sounds like him, but doesn't act anything like he should. However, I think literally everyone may have missed the point that the director, Roland Emmerich, was trying to pull. Now, I'm sure we all know Roland Emmerich's disdain for Godzilla. He had and still has made it abundantly clear that he did not like Godzilla one bit. It took, I think, was 4 tries for producer Dean Devlin to even convince Roland to direct the film, and it shows. It's clear that compared to Emmerich's other films like Independence Day or Stargate, that Godzilla 98 is dry of passion. In retrospect, I can definitely tell that Roland didn't care one bit about the character, and may as well have been a paycheck for him. As we all know, as human beings do, we change and adapt things that don't work for us. And that's what Emmerich did with Godzilla. He knew that the Japanese Godzilla wasn't his thing, so he hired creature designer Patrick Tatopoulos to redesign Godzilla for the American market. He wanted something that was fast, swift, sleek, and something that could get out of a situation without brute strength. So Patrick Tatopoulos came back with this.
The director told me to change it to make it faster, quicker, more attractive, more realistic.
Wow, right? Hot damn, that's a sexy looking motherfucker. But as Godzilla, I mean, it's really interesting. It's a really new and cool design for the character, but I'm saying this as someone 22 years in the future. Imagine how off-putting this would have been back then. The thing is though, Roland loved it. He thought it was perfect, so he went to Japan to finally present to Toho what they had created for the Big G. However, when they showed the Japanese company what they were up to, they were speechless. They genuinely didn't know what to think about this thing. It was so different, and judging from their faces, Roland knew that they would send him back to the drawing board. But after careful consideration, they decided to endorse his design. They said yes, with hesitation, but yes. Toho was trying to get this American production off the ground for decades, with directors coming and going, budgets too high, and stories out the window. Toho needed something after almost 20 years of not getting anywhere. And I mean, even the initial story and design for Godzilla, the more accurate design and story with John DeBont as director, got scrapped. So they were desperate to approve. They would have said yes to anything. So they did. The design was settled, and that was Godzilla now. Emmerich threw the original script in the shit bin and started from scratch. The original story involved a more traditional Godzilla fighting a monster named the Griffin, but being the cunt that he is, Emmerich changed it completely. From then on, the new American Godzilla would involve a mutated iguana from French Polynesia of all places that swims to New York City to nest and raise its young. The design wasn't all they changed. Godzilla's trademark characteristics were scrapped altogether. No atomic breath, no strength. Godzilla would actually run away from the military and hide. Run away and hide. It's like they wanted to piss everyone off. After they filmed everything, after everything they had gone through, the production was finally finished. The only problem left was making sure they hit the right audience. The marketing campaign was absolutely massive. Posters, signs, fucking Taco Bell, a Trendmaster's toy line. This movie should have been a cash cow. It deserved to be, right? 20 years in the making should guarantee some kind of benefit. They risked a lot and thought it would pay off with flying colors, but perhaps they took too many risks. Way too many. On May 20th, 1998, the film was released, and it forever changed the series as we know it. The movie was met with overwhelmingly negative responses. From a cinema standpoint, it was awful, boring, and failed to live up to the expectations the marketing set up for the movie. Roland and Dean completely wasted the potential of their new Godzilla. Godzilla destroyed a total of 2 buildings. Most of the destruction was minuscule and wasn't even done by the Big G. The Baby Zilla scene was seen as a Jurassic Park ripoff. Compared to Independence Day, it was probably more than a disappointment for general audiences. General audiences knew who Godzilla was. They knew what he did, they knew how he acted. Everyone knows who and what Godzilla is, even if they've never even seen a Godzilla movie. So, both fronts, the public and the fans, were bewildered. This was America's first shot at a big budget Hollywood version of the greatest movie monster of all time, and they literally got everything wrong about him. They fucking blew it. And Godzilla fans, oh boy do I feel sorry for you guys. As a fan myself, I couldn't imagine being like 13 when it came out and seeing Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the beast who fought a moth goddess and went toe to toe with a three-headed golden dragon, get killed by a few regular missiles. This movie definitely crushed the hopes of millions. This was not Godzilla to them. You know how birds and lizards take stuff apart and make some space while they're nesting? Couldn't they just have used that excuse to make Godzilla destroy anything? Absolutely dry of passion, see? Because of this movie's failure, the entire Millennium series started, as a way to redeem the franchise. And the movie after the Millennium series, from America, was almost like an apology for what we did to the character. Shin Godzilla couldn't exist without 2014, and same thing with the anime trilogy. Now, this is technically a good thing, as most of those movies were good, but the failure of this movie affected the next 20 years of this 65-year-old series. That is an accomplishment. It's unbelievable how much they got wrong. So, it's been a long time. A lot of people remember this movie as the shit one. But there's a surprising amount of people who've come out and said that they don't mind this movie, and even like it. Me? I love it. Yes, I absolutely love this film. I love the design, I love the characters, I love the feel, the atmosphere, the look, and the aura that surrounds this film. Is it a good film? Not really. Is it a good Godzilla movie? It's actually a little bit more complicated. I've never been as conflicted with a Godzilla movie as I am with this one. Seeing it now, in the present, considering we already have the legendary Godzilla, the rightful American one we deserved, I see this Godzilla as more of a realistic, different take on the character. No, he's not Zilla. He's not Godzilla in name only. He is Godzilla. An entity that was born of atomic testing and comes ashore to remind humanity of their sins, to do what he feels is right. Whether it's to exact revenge on mankind, to defend itself from the threat of humanity, or simply to lay eggs. Eggs that can hatch monsters that risk replacing us as the dominant species of this planet. Godzilla is always a warning. Godzilla is a symbol of the horrors humanity can bestow upon Earth and everything living on it. No matter what, he's a reminder of our mistakes. But it is possible for humanity to learn from their mistakes. Just like how the character had morphed itself from Godzilla the horrifying monster to Godzilla the friend and ally, defending humanity from threats beyond our control. We must use our mistakes to better ourselves because they make us who we are, for the better. Godzilla 1998 still has the everlasting conflict the original Gojira had. While it's a bit muffled under a lot of Hollywood glamour and cheese, humanity must destroy a creature that they created, a creature that they brought upon itself. The creature is born and did only what it felt like it needed to do, which in this case was reproduce like all living organisms do. And we killed it. We killed it for existing. Godzilla was our fault, and we killed him, haunting us with the reminder of the mistakes we've made. The ending of 98 is bittersweet as the characters look on in guilt, watching this innocent creature die, forever engraving the notion of learning from the mistakes humanity has tried to bury. I argue that Godzilla 98 is much more faithful than most think. Even though Godzilla runs away from the military, even though he lays eggs, even though he's weak as fuck, even though he has no breath or unintentionally destroys his surroundings, how long did it take us to beat him? Yeah, the entire fucking movie. We couldn't hurt him, find him, catch him, or corner him because he was way too damn fast for us. The Japanese Godzilla was way too strong for us. Godzilla 98 was way too fast for us. It's the same idea, it's just executed differently. I see this movie as the farthest the character has gone away from itself, but in the most refreshing way possible. At face value, he's not necessarily the god in Godzilla, but he is a Godzilla. Just as much as the legendary Godzilla or the Toho Godzilla, he is a Godzilla. Roland Emmerich knew he may not please everyone, and he created both the exact opposite of Godzilla, but stayed faithful with the core themes and ideas of the character. The fact that everyone has overlooked this is a testament to his unseen competence. I don't want to give him too much credit though. Now, I know what you're saying. This is literally just a mediocre monster movie from the 90s, dude. Shut up. And I totally get you. But for me, this movie, I just can't describe it, is so much more than just a monster movie. It's not a masterpiece. I was just saying that it's a lot more faithful to the character than people think. But this movie is like a time capsule to a time I was just enjoying what I enjoyed and didn't know about the flaws in the thing I was enjoying. It was so innocent. I'm a New Yorker. I live and breathe that beautiful concrete jungle, so this movie always kind of spoke to me. I lived in the Bronx, and knowing Godzilla attacked my home, the city I lived in, not a city across the planet that I couldn't get to, my city, really connected to me. I got to see him around such familiar locations. The New York in that movie is so moody and atmospheric. The rain made everything look gray, which is exactly how it looked when it was raining in real life. I loved rainy New York days, and the whole movie was a rainy New York day. Even when I go back to New York today, I look at the landmarks that were destroyed and I imagine what those scenes would have looked like if I was a bystander just looking at the danger in the distance, like when I saw the Chrysler Building or Madison Square Garden, and especially the Brooklyn Bridge. While the acting was kinda bad, I still remember those characters by name. I enjoyed a lot of the humans even if they weren't the smartest or most developed characters. Luckily that kick-ass cartoon show gave them more of a personality and depth to connect to. I'm gonna end this in the most sentimental way possible. I remember one night during a relaxing New York summer, I was able to stay awake later since there wasn't school anymore. I got bored, so I took out Godzilla 1998 from the DVD case and placed it inside the DVD player and just watched away. It was a calm, lonely night, in a good way. My parents and brother were fast asleep, and my lamp dimly lit the darkness. I vividly remember those last 10 or so minutes of the movie, as Godzilla chased Nick, Audrey, Philippe, and Animal in that small little taxi. Philippe drove without control around those slippery New York streets as the sacred beast of the apocalypse was always one step ahead of them. Drifting upon the corners, crashing through dumpsters in the alleyways, it was exciting. Once Godzilla was killed, the characters parted ways with Philippe, with that satisfying music signifying that we may never see Philippe again. The characters walk off into the distance, and the last scene plays. There was one egg left, and as it hatched and roared triumphantly, "Come With Me" from Puff Daddy plays. I got to hear that kick-ass motherfucker play through the credits as I reflected on what I saw. As the peaceful night was waltzing through my city, I sat quietly on my bed and thought, that was pretty cool. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. It was very personal to me, and I had a lot of fun making it. I really want to make more videos like this. So, give me your feedback in the comments. I just really want to share my personal love for this movie. So if there's anyone who can relate in the comments or wants to share their experiences with this movie, go ahead. I'm up for it. So thanks for watching. I'll be back soon, and peace.